Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic Texas are on the verge of securing the #1 seed for Major 4 in just less than a week's time at this point, and Shotzzy's giving an awful lot of credit, and for good reason, to Huke's performance so far. The best S&D player in the game, arguably, right now in his performances so far, but also Shotzzy reckons that of all the great teams he's been on over the last few years, this is the most talented ever. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. First of all, the Doug said to Martin Skin is officially available. Okay, they don't say that it's based on Doug. I know that the CDL guy here, do you want to be as cracked as you are jacked, which is kind of like a Doug said to Martin type thing, so thought that was pretty cool. Another good thing from yesterday was Crimstappen. It was round 6 of the ESLR1 championship that he's competing in. I thought it was awesome, right? So he made an overtake in yesterday's race, which is, I believe, the first time he's actually made a proper overtake, because previously when it happens, it was because someone else would crash out. And in fairness, it's kind of a similar scenario here where this guy goes off track and Crim gets the move done. But afterwards, actually, Team Redline, if you guys know, the current Formula 1 world champion Max Verstappen is involved in Team Redline. It's kind of like the Red Bull type thing that's going on. And they were watching this race, and Max was actually kind of rooting for Crim here. He knew that he was going to get re-overtaken, which he eventually did. But yeah, they were kind of rooting for Ian, as they call him, right? Ian Porter, of course. But unfortunately got overtaken again. But it was really cool stuff to see. And I hope we see more action just like this going forward. Also a big update, speaking of Doug, on the Boston Breach Academy, they have a new player. We know that Johnny wasn't going to be there long. I don't think the Doug Johnny thing was ever really going to work, but also Doug likes to bring in players that he can build up to be the next guy to step up to the CDL. Of course, Doug wants to be that guy at some point, but we know Doug's track record over the last few years in teaming with players, even in recent times, the likes of Beans, obviously Ghosty you teamed with last year. We know where he's at now. We'll see what Shotzzy's thoughts on him are in a second, but also, you know, even Beans, right? Recently, Kreb, both of them stepping up to the Boston starting team. Now, Snoopy is coming into their roster. This is a name I've heard for a few months now. Really hyper-aggressive, cracked SMG player, I believe, in the challenger side. 18-year-old Mexican player, I believe, as well, and Doug was tweeting at him last night. So, yeah, he's going to be joining the Boston Breach Academy. That is the rumor, and Doug kind of confirms it here on Twitter last night. And this is a very exciting prospect, because if there's anything to go off Center's track record as kind of the iGen leader of this academy roster, it's that this guy will probably become something quite special over the next year or so. So, definitely want to stay tuned for a name that I've heard as being a very promising player in challengers for some time, and now he joins with Doug in the Boston Academy. Like, that's got to be a promising sign for him. Speaking also of the Vegas series last night, they got a big W. Temp did tweet this out before deleting it shortly afterwards. This was a couple of days ago now, but he says, can you sound EQ cheese with sound going through the Go XLR or whatever? How do I do it? So, you know, Temp making sure the sound EQ cheese is working properly, and who can blame him, to be honest? A lot of the teams are using it right now. I know that SlasheR, some of the deaths he was having yesterday, it seems quite clear he's still not using it, but with Vegas the way they are, they need to use every advantage they can get. But just confirmation that indeed Vegas are turning it on. But in fairness, as Octane says, one of the key rules of Call of Duty, when you get dropped from a team, you're never going to lose to them the first time you play them. It's happened, of course, from time to time. I don't think Arcitys beat FaZe, for example, the first time they played, which I'm guessing they did at some point this past season after he was dropped from that team last year. But in general, stories like Stanley's one, get drops, play them again, usually it goes back the way of the Vegas guys. In this case, that's exactly what happens. And Stanley was given some credit to Clayster as well and saying, look, you're not terrible, mate. You were a key part of the victory last night. Did a lot of damage, of course. And even as Donny Temp says, I still thought this is crazy to think about, right? That if Vegas beat Florida today, and I don't even think that's a guarantee because they lost to London their second game they played, but if they'd have beaten London, they beat Boston, they beat Toronto, and they took down Los Angeles Guerrillas, right, game 5. If they'd have just beaten London, they'd be 4-0 right now, mixing it up with OpTic for the #1 seed. But, you know, that's pretty remarkable to think about. But they're not. They're 3-1, which is good enough for winners, which is good. But they do need to win every series they can. If they can go 4-1 here and beat Florida, and as I say, they can play down to the level of their opponents, I wouldn't say this is a guaranteed W tonight. But if they do win and go 4-1, that'll be a top 2, top 3 seed. That's great for the major, even in terms of getting the V2 advantage in the series they might play when they get there. 40 points on the board from online. 40 points is the same as what you get from a top 3 placement. Like, that's massive, right? Especially if the the Minnesota Rokkr only get 20 from getting 2 wins, so they need to win today. Temp's confident that they can, and we'll see how that goes later on. Did want to mention also, though, before we look at the standings, the SlasheR and the FaZe situation. As Arcitys says, Austin got sent to hell, the ping machine broke, and SlasheR wasn't happy about it. What he's mentioning here is that, well, SlasheR actually screenshotted while they were up 2-0, not a screenshot, he took it with his phone, I'm guessing, or something, while they're up 2-0 in this final map here, when his ping was 34, and his teammates' pings were 20, 19, 19. The other team 25 or so. Now, okay, so there's this ping latency differentiator tool, whatever they call it, where they have a server that they play on, and they use this ping tool to try and equalize the pings across the teams. And okay, 20 ping, 25 ping, relatively similar. But a fair point, I think, from SlasheR, the fact is, the other team is on 25, 25, 26, 25, which makes sense. They're all in the same location, playing on the same server. His teammates sitting right next to him are on 20, 19, 19. He's on 34. Now, okay, 15 ping, it's not the end of the world, but it's still a factor, I suppose, that SlasheR's like, how is this even possible? I'm sitting right here next to my guys. Everyone else in the lobby is the same. And I imagine he was getting checked out a bit by this, because he was obviously looking at the scoreboard mid-map thinking, what is going on with my ping? And then he got fried in that round 11 off the head glitch. But his teammates did better amount to get the job done. Even FaZe say that one was for our boy. So, of course, Attacher was dropped by the Minnesota Rokkr relatively recently, was on FaZe for many years. Legendary player really for the FaZe franchise. I know there was some questions. What about FaZe Attach again? Could he come back instead of SlasheR? I know people are saying, oh, SlasheR's costing all this. Now, look, as long as they're winning, it's not a problem. But SlasheR did have only 7,000 or so damage. He hasn't been playing particularly well in the last few series. He was great in, was it the Stage 3 online qualifiers? I think he was really good in. Usually he's better on LAN than online anyway. I think I'm going to reserve judgment a bit on whether SlasheR's going to be part of this team long term until I see more of them on LAN. But fundamentally, they're top of the standing still. They've won an event, top 3 all the time, broke the all-time record for Search and Destroy performances. I think the people that are calling for SlasheR to get dropped are way premature in saying that, but he will have to step up his individual performances over the last couple of weeks. There's no doubt about that one. Maybe get a bit more hill time in there as well, just off these kind of results over the last few days. But still, they're 3-1. It's not like they're, well, at the bottom of the barrel like Toronto are right now. And also, there's a possibility today, by the way, if Los Angeles Guerrillas lose their final game, as do Florida Mutineers, we will have 2 0-5 teams, which is the first ever time, if it happens, that has happened. There's never been a double 0-5 in the CDL kind of qualifier standings. There's often been a single 0-5, but a double 0-5 has never happened before. So we could be watching history develop before our eyes. Toronto, though, 1-4, they're guaranteed losers. OpTic, of course, and Vegas and FaZe and Thieves already guaranteed winners. But OpTic are 12-2 map counts. They just need, of course, if they beat Boston tonight, then they'll be 5-0. Even if they lose, they can still get the #1 seed, depending on how things go. But Vegas 3-1, they'll, of course, want to be 4-1 quickly. And frankly, right, they beat Boston, they beat Toronto. They go into next stage. They need to catch up quickly, though, right? Because Rokkr are 2-2. They play Thieves as well. That's going to be a tough series for them. I believe they play that on the Sunday. We'll see in a second the games for today. But Rokkr have an easier Stage 5 schedule, I think, than Vegas do. But if Vegas can beat Boston as they did, and they can beat Toronto as they did, they should be able to beat teams like New York and Surge as well, theoretically. They just need to make sure that control gets a bit more consistent than it presently is. Let's talk about the OpTic stuff then, because their turnaround has been quite remarkable, from looking like, honestly, a terrible team when they were nearly double first round at their home tournament, to turn it around to where they presently are. And a lot of that credit has to go to Huke. Obviously, the play he made right to the end of the controller yesterday, it was looking a bit sketchy. Gets 1, gets 2, and gets a couple more kills after that as well. I believe he got like 3 more kills, whatever it was. Yeah, got this kill, then got 2 more to close out the game. Like, Huke just came different at the end of this control, but it's his search and destroy so far that's been absolutely impeccable, right? And as a duo, these guys are almost unstoppable right now. Shotzzy and Huke, I mean, look at these numbers, the overalls across the game modes. Okay, Shotzzy has a 0.56 in search, but that doesn't matter when Huke has a 2.33, and that was even going into this map, and it was even better after the map concluded, and he dropped a 2.6 KD. So the guy's been unreal, and I thought this is quite funny for Bryce, actually, right? You know, Nameless falling to his knees in Walmart because he was very critical of this change for Ghosty at the time, but give it a few games and it certainly worked out to be the correct decision. So I wanted to share what Shotzzy had to say on this, on the talent on this roster, basically saying that, like, look, of all the teams he's played on, Dallas Empire back in the Modern Warfare days, with iLLeY, Crimstappen, Clayster, and Huke on the roster, he reckons this team is more talented than that roster. The next year on Dallas Empire as well, when there was initially Huke was there with iLLeY, no Clayster anymore, then they brought Vivid in, and then the OpTic Texas days since then, even with Scump on the roster, he reckons now what they're able to achieve and the level they're able to get out of Huke is pretty much the most talented they've ever been.
Why is it when when Huke signed your team, it elevates him and you. What are the tendencies? Is this something you guys talk about? Like, how have you guys gotten to this level?
I think it's just like our pacing matches really, really well. I think, you know, me and Kyler are just insanely aggressive at times, and then there's times where, you know, we're able to slow it down at times, and we have that balance to where either he's doing it or I'm doing it. So, yeah, I mean, me and him, we're crazy right now, so we're just gonna hopefully keep it up.
56-26 now is the official record as a duo. That is spanning across 3 different titles. Where do you feel your peak has been with Huke at your side?
This year, man, I feel like genuinely this team is probably one of the most, I don't know, talented teams I've ever been on. We practice every single day, and we're only getting better and better. So, definitely say this team for sure.
And if they are the most talented team it's been on, do they need Predators and upgrade, right? It's still a question that's going to go around. Huke is certainly playing like a man that needs to maintain his spot, and for good reason, and it's working out well for both parties because, I mean, this I thought was also, this is iLLeY type vibes, right? You know when iLLeY won the World Championship online back in 2020 Modern Warfare, within about 2 or 3 hours after winning, what, 300 grand for winning the World Championship online, he then was playing S&D chals. Like, the guy is different, he just loves Call of Duty, and Huke, after shooting bots for about an hour or so in the Los Angeles Guerrillas series, then comes in to shoot some more bots in shipments to, I guess, cool down. It's like if you're an athlete, you might warm up and cool down after a match or a swim or whatever you might be doing just to ensure that your muscles are recovering properly. But apparently Huke has the same idea here for shooting bots after the series, just to kind of warm down his aim. I don't really know. Straight into bots after the dub I thought was pretty, you know, it just goes to show how locked in Huke is right now, and the numbers certainly show it. One of the best players in the game, no doubt, a 2.41 in search and destroy, like best kills per round in the league. Great first blood rate. Obviously, the KD is insane in and of itself, but it's even the respawns, a 1.1, a 1.12. Like, you know, especially with Shotzzy playing as he is, that's almost unstoppable right now, and it's certainly translating into their result. In the last 17 hardpoints they've played, 15 in 2. That's incredibly challenging to do. Search and destroy, you can maybe separate yourselves from the pack a bit more. Winning a load of hardpoints in a row is always going to be a challenge because it is the game mode that people play every single day the most of. So, I mean, yeah, that record is pretty remarkable, to be honest, and it's probably going to continue for a little bit to come. They will want to win today to secure themselves as being the favourites going into the major, but they probably already are, and these are the 4 games coming up. So Ravens versus New York, big game for the subliners to just make sure they're going to get to winners brackets. London, if they win this, they'll get to 2 in 3, and maybe still have a chance in there somewhere. Then Vegas, Florida, big series, of course. Vegas need to win this one. We saw what they did against London the other week, and it wasn't pretty. I think they will get the job done. I'm going to say Vegas 3-1, but they need to make sure they lock it and don't get too complacent here, because every 10 points matters absolutely, and they could be 5-0 if they just beat London and they win this series. Then OpTic versus Breach, very interesting. We saw in the first game that OpTic played against Breach at their tournaments. Beans went off that map to aBeZy, right? They ended up losing the series comfortably, but they played them later on in the tourney, got their revenge, and that was when OpTic started to look in the latter half of that tournament like the OpTic we now see. So I'm expecting OpTic to get the job done. It's like Breach and OpTic are not too dissimilar in terms of the way they play the game, but OpTic are just more talented and have better chemistry right now, I think. And then another banger to close out the day, Surge versus FaZe. These guys play a lot, I think, and it's always a banger. Like, this might be, in terms of the recent CDL history, Surge versus FaZe seems to produce the most bangers of any matchup we have seen in quite some time. It's usually a game 5. It's quite often round 11s in there. Looking forward to this one. FaZe are 3-1. We know how much they love to go 3-2 in qualifiers, so I wouldn't put it past Surge to make that happen, but apparently Surge's practice hasn't been great as of late, so there are questions here. I think I will take FaZe in 5 though, and then that's going to make things very interesting with the 2-2 teams going into Sunday. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Bless you, Toaster.
Dankjewel.
Graag gedaan.
Alsjeblieft, jongen.
Oh. Oh, behind. Oh, okay.
Ian!
Let's go!
Yes!
No, okay, now he's gonna get overtaken.
Don't let him do it.
Yeah, he's gonna get doored off. He's gonna get doored off.
Oh, come on, Ian.
I expect to send into turn 1.
Yeah, big
thanks.